Alright, so today I'm going over the American Muscle by GearSpek. It's a dual 18650 box mod with a USB charging port. Today I'm pairing it up with a blue Doge V2. Gonna build a little low today. I'm gonna do a tri-parallel 26 gauge 4 wrap on a 3mm screwdriver. Ohms at about 0.16. I do the build quite often. It's a pretty airy build, but let's see if this box can handle it. So you see the Doge has a 3-post design with some really wide post holes in there. It also has grub screws on the top of them. I tend to like those a little better because they don't back out. You can usually get a good tight connection to the Kanthal or to the nichrome, whatever wire you tend to use. It works really well. Those post holes are about 2.5 millimeters wide, so you can fit some pretty good sized Kanthal through there. Today we're messing with 26 gauge. I'm going to put 3 strands of 26 gauge through that center post and the negative post, so we're going to see how well it works today. Top cap looks very clean with it. Good little Doge design. The colors blend well together. Alright, so what you got here is 3 pieces of 26 gauge, about 6 inches of each piece. Just lay them all flat next to each other like so. I'm going to use a 3mm screwdriver. So, as you can see, it is a 3mm screwdriver. If you have one of these Stanley kits, it's easy to figure it out. So what you do, you just get all 3 wires, make sure they're all flat against each other, and you just wrap it. Like a regular coil, just make sure all 3 pieces of Kanthal are touching each other, close to each other as possible while you're doing this. You don't want them to overlap or go over each other. So you're going to get a nice long coil. There's 4 wraps right there. So you can see that's not including this one right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I always back that last wrap off because it just gives me more of a lip to grab onto, and it gives me a better lead to install inside the RDA. Now with parallels, it's a wonderful thing because if you don't make them perfectly and they're kind of bunched up, they're not even or not tight enough, you can tighten each individual strand as long as they're side by side to make it tighter. So don't be worried if it looks kind of funky when you first get it, because after a little bit of work and a little bit of pulling and tugging on each one of these strands, you'll get a coil that looks something similar to this. So you see here now we got the tri-parallel 26 gauge. It's a pretty long coil. I mean, it's a little uneven, but you can clean it up on the mod. So now I'm going to go ahead and install this onto the RDA itself. See how I keep one lead longer than the other? The reason why I do that is because it makes it easier to install it. So if I put the long lead in first, I can have that in the coil inside the post securely while I guide the second lead in, without losing the first one inside of that one. So it seems like it fits 3 strands of 26 gauge in there pretty easily, actually. I could honestly dual this if I really wanted to, but we're not going to do that today. Again, you can just grab your parallel, pull it tight on the RDA itself, make sure everything is snug around that bit that you're wrapping around, make sure everything is evenly, there's no breaks in the coil, there's no bumps in the coil. It takes some time and practice, but once you figure it out, it's pretty nice. So now that I got it in there, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a tilt, just because I just get a little better airflow over the coil that way. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it down. We'll tighten up the negative post first. Notice how I'm keeping my bit that I wrapped around inside of the coil as I'm doing this. This helps keep the integrity of the coil as you tighten it down. So there's the negative post, and then the positive post. So now just adjust the coils where I want it to sit. Cut the leads. As leads get cut, I just adjust the coil one more time to get it to where I want it to. So now you have the coil installed inside your RDA. Now what you want to do from here is you want to pulse it when you're heating it up. So just kind of tap it to pulse it. So you heat it up slowly so it doesn't shrink the coil right away. And once it gets there, you just kind of stick your bit that you're using to wrap around it. So I'm sticking this back in there again, just to keep the coil's integrity together so it doesn't overlap or go over each other. After you heat it up and move it, you'll notice it's going to start heating up from the inside out. Now see here, it's already grilled pretty well, so I don't got to do much work afterwards. It's already heating up from the inside out. So notice how it heats up pretty quick. It's a pretty fast ramp up time. It stays pretty hot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just slowly pinch it together with my pliers just to get a little bit tighter. I got that clean burn from the inside out. Now I'm going to do this step a couple more times just till I get it to where I like it. Now I got the coil heating up from the inside out. Now we're going to wick her and vapor. See how she blows. I'm using a standard cotton ball. Preferably I'd use 100% organic cotton. The softer brand too. This is a little bit stiffer, but it works just as well as anything else. The taste is still going to be just fine. Let's go ahead and pull off a piece. Unroll it. Twist it together a little bit. Twist one end tighter than normal. And then install it right into here. Kind of twist and pull my way through until I get a good snug piece in there. I want it to be tight but not too tight. So loosen it to where I can still adjust it so I can still freely move it in the coil. So it's still able to move back and forth. Just kind of fluff it a little bit, clip the ends off. Pick it down a little bit so it gets behind that right there. So I got a pretty good fluffy wick on the single coil on this tri-parallel 26 gauge. I'll vapor juice her up and see how she blows. I'm using a dyed liquid just so you can see how much of the coil you want to cover up. You'll know when the coil is all wicked up too, because the whole entire thing will be the same color. Some people have mixed thoughts on dyed liquids. I personally don't mind them either way. This one happens to have a really good taste even though it is dyed. Quick, instant heat up. So I'm gonna wick her up one more time. Throw the top cap on this baby. And we'll give her a spin. So now we got that build on here. She kicks. Nice little amount of vapor coming out of that thing. So the box isn't heating up at all in any of this. I'm going to go ahead and vape it, see how she blows. It's pretty solid. Got some really good cloud production off the build alone. The RDA is not heating up. The box mod itself is not heating up. It's a pretty low build to throw on there regardless. Seems to be holding its own pretty well. Heats up pretty instantly, so I'll need to take a few seconds to withdraw. There you go, just a second. That's what, 8 draws I've taken off for this build alone. Still haven't needed re-wigged. It's 9. Notice the cotton's getting a little lower. Let's see how well it does on a long draw. So we're going to go ahead and give it a, juice it up one more time and give it a nice long pull. See how well see how well it does on one of those. See if the button heats up, see if the mod heats up. Just gonna test it to see how well it can fire. Just blowing some clouds though. That there is beautiful. All in all, it's actually a pretty solid mod. The design is aluminum design, so it disperses heat really quickly. The button doesn't get hot, and I love that USB charging port in there, so I don't have to remove the batteries every time I want to change them. I just go ahead and plug it in, charges in about 3 to 4 hours. It'll have a little red light right here on the bottom, and then once that turns green, the batteries are good to go. It's a full charge. You just want to make sure you use a 1 amp charger, so your iPad blocks, your tablet blocks, any type of high output energy blocks that you use for any of your larger end devices. Like your laptops won't be able to charge it at the power it needs to, and you want to be careful on which phone blocks. So like iPhone, little white iPhone blocks, they tend to work really well. They just take a little bit longer to charge it. But that right there is a review on the American Muscle by GearSpek.